Good afternoon. Bon après-midi tout le monde. Good afternoon, Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, ministers, with members of Parliament, ambassadors, and many distinguished guests here with us this afternoon. You are very welcome here at the Embassy of Canada. I'm Kirsten Hillman, Canada's ambassador to the United States, and I'm delighted to welcome you to this embassy as we celebrate the 75th anniversary of NATO. L'Alliance est plus forte et plus unique que jamais. Et le Canada est fier d'être au cœur de l'OTAN. The Canadian Armed Forces deploy to all NATO operations. Our defense industrial based and R&D design and build technologies that keep us all safe. And Canada is a driver of innovation within the alliance. Today, we are showcasing NATO's Climate Change and Security Centre of Excellence, CASCO. We are celebrating CASCO's accreditation and its activation. In addition to welcoming you all here today, it is also my distinct pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker. During the NATO summit in Brussels in June 2021, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau introduced Canada's initiative to establish and host CASCO. Au sommet de l'OTAN à Madrid en juin 2022, le Premier ministre a annoncé que Montréal serait la ville hôte pour cet centre d'excellence d'OTAN pour le changement climatique et la sécurité. In April of this year, the Prime Minister announced Canada's new defence policy, Our North, Strong and Free. And at its heart, this policy is based on a clear-eyed assessment of the threats that we face. Canada is a northern nation and an Arctic nation. We're responsible for NATO's northwestern flank. And so we have a distinctive viewpoint from which we experience the accelerated effects of climate change. Canada's Arctic is warming at 4 times the global average, with tangible implications for our Indigenous peoples, Northern Canadians, and their way of life. Les changements climatiques altèrent les dynamiques géopolitiques dans une région éloignée. D'ici 2050, l'océan Arctique pourrait devenir la voie de navigation commerciale la plus efficace entre l'Europe et l'Asie de l'Est. For Canada, this has meant greater Russian activity in our air approaches and a growing number of Chinese vessels in our Arctic region. We're also watching as states build up their military capabilities that impact our security. And so this is why climate change is so central to Canada's new defence policy. Under Prime Minister's leadership, climate change has been a through line of our defence relations, our operations, and our military preparedness over the past years. And therefore, it is my great pleasure and distinct honor to welcome to the podium the Prime Minister of Canada, the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please have a seat. Thank you for the warm introduction, Ambassador Hillman, Kirsten, for all your hard work on this relationship and in this important time in the world. Thank you for the work you do every single day to strengthen and uphold the very special bond that exists between Canada and the United States, a bond that increasingly is significantly important, not just for the two countries here in North America, but right around the world. C'est un grand plaisir aussi d'être ici avec la ministre des Affaires étrangères du Canada, Mélanie Joly, le ministre de la Défense nationale, Bill Blair, et d'autres collègues parlementaires, Julie Zerowitz, Vance Badaway, James Maloney, Judy Scrow, Francesco Sorbara, Anthony Housefather, and Cody Blois. I also want to thank the numerous people from our NATO allies in attendance today for this event to celebrate NATO's Climate Change and Security Centre of Excellence. And before I continue, I also want to recognize General Wayne Eyre, who is joining us here today at NATO and is attending his final NATO summit before retiring later this month. General, thank you for your many years of outstanding service. not just to Canada, but to NATO and to the world. Canada and NATO have long recognized an indisputable fact. Climate change is not only an existential environmental threat, but one of the defining security issues of our time. Le Canada et l'OTAN savent depuis longtemps que les changements climatiques sont non seulement une menace environnementale, mais aussi un des plus grands défis de sécurité de notre époque. Rising sea levels and increasingly frequent and intense natural disasters threaten security infrastructure like ports and military bases that keep our alliance safe. A warming Arctic is opening up a new arena of competition that our adversaries are eager to exploit, and climate-induced floods, famines, and droughts exacerbate inequality, fuel conflict, and drive displacement across the globe, all of which disproportionately harm marginalized and vulnerable populations. Overall, climate change risks creating a less stable, less prosperous, and less secure world. That is why we acted. Back home, our government has shown global leadership in addressing the climate crisis. We've placed a price on pollution that simultaneously reduces our emissions and puts more money in the pockets of 8 out of 10 Canadians. We launched Canada's first national adaptation strategy to build stronger and more resilient communities. We became the first major oil-producing nation to introduce a cap on emissions from the oil and gas sector. And we're creating hundreds of thousands of good-paying, sustainable jobs from coast to coast to coast with our $160 billion investment in our net zero economic plan and green industrial strategy, showing every step of the way that good climate policy is good economic policy. What gathers us here today is that it is also good security policy. Addressing a global problem like climate change requires a global response. A global response which we've been coordinating in close partnership with our 31 fellow member states in NATO. Our government has been a strong advocate for ensuring that climate change is an integral part of NATO's agenda and that together we act to make it a reality. Notre gouvernement a toujours insisté pour que la lutte contre les changements climatiques fasse partie du programme de l'OTAN, alors on a travaillé ensemble. In 2021, the Alliance published the NATO Climate Change and Security Action Plan, a plan which recognized the risks that climate change poses to NATO and pledged to take action to address those challenges. In 2022 and 23, Canada co-led a climate change working group with Denmark and Norway to identify and establish NATO's climate research priorities. And we spearheaded the NATO Climate Change and Security Center of Excellence, which we were proud to launch last year, that will be housed in downtown Montreal. This center serves as a critical research platform to ensure that NATO allies and partners are equipped with the information they need to succeed in a climate-changed world, to plan for and adapt to and mitigate the security risks and impacts caused by climate change, and to forge strong partnerships with organizations like the Munich Security Conference and the CDA Institute that are committed to addressing the security challenges posed by the climate crisis. So today, I'm excited to celebrate with you all the important milestone for the Center. Just a few weeks ago, the Alliance accredited it as an official NATO Center of Excellence, Canada's first. This important step was many months in the making and was only made possible by the strong support of the 11 sponsoring nations, 11 NATO allies who, like us, see the value of standing up a world-class, security-focused climate research body. We're looking forward to seeing what the Center will accomplish, and we expect to see many more nations join in this work in the coming years. This center of excellence, along with our leadership of the multinational NATO-led battle group in Latvia, our continued efforts to train Ukrainian military personnel through Operation Unifier, and our new defense policy vision, which invests $73 billion in defense over the next 2 decades, all demonstrate Canada's unwavering resolve to support the alliance, a resolve that continues to grow stronger. When we took office, Canada was spending less than 1% of its GDP on defense every year. But we vowed to change that right away, and we followed through on our word. We're investing more in our troops, in our capacity, and in our capabilities, all while continuing to provide assistance to our allies resisting Russian aggression. NATO is the strongest military alliance in the world. And to keep it that way, we must continue to step up individually and collectively to strengthen both our alliance and the collective peace it represents and protects. Canada stands with our NATO allies. Canada will always defend the values of democracy, freedom, and the rule of law, as it is more important today than it ever has been. My friends, we must be clear-eyed about the current state of global affairs. The long peace after the Second World War is over. We're living in an increasingly dangerous, unstable, and complex world. Cyber warfare, resurgent authoritarian forces, expanding regional conflicts, and everywhere increasing impacts of climate change, all represent growing threats to our collective security and our continued prosperity. This is the sobering reality we must all face. That's why Canada will continue to work closely with like-minded allies to tackle these challenges directly, to build a better world for all. We will grow our global partnerships, and we will always do what is needed to forge a stronger, more united NATO and to keep us all safe. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Thank you.